I got that song in my head. Bum, bum, ba-da-dun-dun-dun. Wait, it's a different song. But anyway, hey, everybody, welcome to Poduty, the news for Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. I'm Jeff Revilla, your host. We've got 6 stories about live news podcasting headed your way. I've got Jacob Espinoza joining me, local social club. What's happening in Salem? Jacob, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the news.
What time is it?
Oh, the only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Jacob Espinoza, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. This is pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So excited to have you here. Been looking at some of the things you did. You have built something really incredible with what's happened in Salem and the local social club. Tell us a little bit about, how'd you get started? What was your interest in creating these networks of bringing people together?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing it a lot with what you're doing, but there's just a shift in media right now. People don't really subscribe to newspapers anymore. They aren't listening to radio, and they don't want to pay for news at any level in majority. I think the data shows like 14% of people are willing to pay for news at all. So you have 86% of your population who's just completely uninformed unless you have someone in your town who's stepping up and providing information on social media or doing a free newsletter or a live podcast.
Was that something that you were early to? Because I've seen that model now. It seems to be something common, and the way that you build it up, the way that you're talking about Salem and bringing that core news product together and becoming that media center in the town. When did you get started doing all that?
So it's been almost 2 years, which is wild to say. But yeah, we saw growth quick. I mean, I think the first 3-4 months, we're at 20,000 followers. We have 180,000 people in our city for context. So huge market saturation. We're at 42,000 followers on Instagram, Facebook. We're like 15, TikTok. We're at 6, and we're still growing over there. But just huge potential for this type of a product and for people to make a living, to market their business, whatever it might be. When you become the go-to person in your community, there's lots of advantages there.
Yeah, it's a great way to become that pillar. And then from that, you can branch off all these other avenues, these events, advertising, promoting other businesses. There's a myriad of things that you can do. And anything that really surprised you, once you started a business like this, once you started becoming the media of the town?
It's just been fun how supportive it's been. I mean, we definitely try to keep things very positive. We highlight the positive things that are happening in our community. We really live off the motto that the things that are recognized are repeated. So people that are taking chances, making things happen in Salem, we want to make sure that we can shine a light on them. And just been a lot of fun. I think that's been it really has been a blessing as well. I think whenever you're putting yourself out there on the internet, building an audience, you never quite know the opportunities that are going to present themselves. And I'm just been grateful to build great relationships and make some cool things happen in Salem.
Yeah, which I think makes you a perfect guest for what we do on this show, where we talk about bringing people together for social events, for podcasting events, and performing shows live. You're seeing that happen on a local level. And you also are the founder of Local Social Club. And tell us a little bit about that. How can people connect with you and learn more about Local Social Club?
Yeah, in Local Social Club, we are helping other content creators start local Instagram channels and monetize. We have a lot of people who started a month ago and are already getting their first brand deals, finding ways to find sponsors, helping people understand what type of content to create that is most engaging. And the nice thing about it is I have a community of people who are all trying different things. And when something works, we're quick to share it with the rest of the group. And things that work in one city generally work pretty well in another. So we're all doing a good job helping each other grow, challenging each other, And it's exciting helping people, one, just build great relationships, supporting their communities. We're in a time where people are extremely isolated and lonely, and a big part of that is we just don't know what's happening in our city. We used to have 40 people in Salem working at our local newspaper. That was probably 25 years ago, but at this point it's pretty stripped down. We got like 5 reporters and there's 180,000 people in our community. So it's just not enough people to really tell all of the stories and share the news that's happening. So we want to provide people, we want to help people to understand the businesses they can support, the nonprofits they can support, and the events that are out there, so they have a chance to get out and meet people in Salem.
Yeah, and I love being lean and mean and being able to scale on your own terms and grow the business the way that you want to grow it without having to answer to some other conglomerate, without having to worry about all this other structure. You're really in control. You're creating something that's a unique piece of media for your local community, and really sharing that and investing in the community and letting the community shine on its own.
Yes, that is it. We are just kind of being the spotlight, the megaphone of good things that are happening. And we're putting events on as well. I think one of the advantages of being a local content creator is that it's really easy to engage with your audience. And, in-person events, there's a huge need for it right now.
Yeah, and you're speaking our language because we are about live events. This is what we're going to talk about over these next 6 stories. And the best way people want to connect with you, find out more about Local Social Club, where do you usually send people?
Yeah, the jacobespinoza.com is a great place to go. You can schedule a call right there. There's a link on the page. You can use a schedule a call, and love to learn more about what you're working on and see if it's a good fit for us to support you.
Awesome. All those links will be in the show notes. We have a crew page too, where anybody who's been on the show gets inducted into the Poduty and the crew, and you'll find all the links for all my guests, all future episodes that they come on. Jacob, you're welcome to come back in the future and do other shows. All those links will be there attached to your account, to your profile there. And anyone wants to see it and connect with you later on, check it out at news.poduty.com. Jacob, are you ready for our stories?
We're ready. Let's dig in.
We got the first one, and people love when I pick stories of places that I can't pronounce. So this one's from the Romania Insider, and I'm going to guess on this one. The Soufflé de Romania Festival returns to April 25th and 26th, and it's designed to recreate the feel of a traditional Romanian village. You've got artisan workshops, folk dances, local food, and live performances from artists like Thea Rose and Damian Dragici. It's free to attend, open to the public, and expected to be their biggest year yet. But layer into all of this is a live podcast recording featuring a writer and a journalist happening right alongside the festival experience. This is where live podcasting fits in perfectly. The audience is already there. The energy is already built. The podcast isn't trying to pull people in. It becomes part of something people are already excited to attend. And we see this time and time again anymore, especially in 2026, where when you go to an event, they used to have magicians and musicians and comedians as part of the entertainment. But more and more, you're seeing podcasting creeping in, storytelling creeping in. These panels where you used to go to a conference and see a panel of 4 people just talk about something. Well, they're switching that out with podcasts now. And here's an example of a festival in Romania where part of the entertainment for the crowd is a live podcast. And this is where I really see the future of podcasting going, is those real life experience, like what Jacob's building with what's happening in Salem. You're showcasing all those events in the city. Well, these types of events are happening at festivals, conferences, and here's one happening in Romania.
Yeah, I think you have the right people that bring the right personality to it, and it can add an element. I think we'll see a lot of this type of a hybrid approach, right? Where you can visit the event, but you also have the online version for people that can't make it, as a way to create some of that FOMO. But I think it does take the right personality, somebody that's going to be entertaining enough and engaging enough to get people's attention and then keep people's attention, because as we both know, attention spans are pretty short. And, when you don't know when someone's going to join that live, but you want to give them reasons to stick around, and not only that, but share it with their friends as well.
Yeah, we often see even like side events or sub events within an event, or side stages having podcasts as part of it too. So look around when you're going out to conferences and festivals and even music festivals now. There are side stages doing podcasts and interviewing the music act. So podcasting is happening everywhere. And if you're interested in a certain topic or a certain industry, there's probably an event based around what you're already talking about. Use that podcast to open the doors and get in, maybe get a free pass, maybe record your show there and interview some industry experts. I really think live events are really the future for podcasting.
And I think that another angle is just helping the event organizers understand the added benefit that this provides to their sponsors, where you can kind of create it as part of the sponsorship package that you'll have a chance to be featured on this live podcast that's going to be happening at the event. You can take the clips and share them on social. So it's not just the exposure at the event, but it's in a lot of the conversation that's happening in the media created afterwards as well, where they will get that benefit.
Yeah, that's a great way to sell it and even build momentum towards the next year. Build on that, capture some of the things that happened that year and use that to promote for the following year. Use it on your podcast, use it let the conference use it, the event use it to promote. That's a win-win all around. You're going to build your podcast in front of a new audience. And in the same time, you're going to help that event build an audience for next year.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll go to story number 2 from Podbiz. This comes to us from the Podbiz YouTube channel. Jeremy Ems from the Podcast Marketing Academy shared perspective that a lot of people in podcasting don't talk about. He says the biggest money in podcasting may not be ads or sponsorships. It's the revenue that never gets tracked at all. He's talked about small niche shows that might not have big audiences, but they're driving real business results behind the scenes. 6- and 7-figure businesses built with podcasts that most people have never heard of. This connects directly to live podcasting. Live events, live meetups, and conferences don't show up in download numbers either, but they drive real revenue. Ticket sales, partnerships, relationships all happen outside those traditional podcast metrics. And you hear people talk about my download numbers and how many listens I had, but there are so many other elements. And you mentioned one already, Jacob. You mentioned packaging up something as part of a bigger package. If you have a podcast, well, maybe you have a website, you could sell banner ads. Maybe you're building an email list. You could package, a banner, an email list, and your podcast, and that's not going to show up in the download numbers, but that's a real way for a small podcast to drive real revenue.
Yeah, I think you become the go-to voice in a niche, and there's so many different ways to monetize. I feel like podcasts are just a great way to develop trust with your audience, and depending on what your business is, it's going to kind of decide how much growth potential, how hard it is going to be to make money. If you're creating content that is in an industry where people have exposable income, or will add on, or is a industry that will add on to a business's bottom line, you can charge a lot for that service. And so I think a lot of it does kind of depend. I think if you're doing a lifestyle podcast, it's probably gonna be a little bit more challenging to monetize because people are listening to you for entertainment, but they're probably not listening to you as far as making purchasing decisions. So in that sort of a world, you're probably, having to grow your audience pretty big. But if you are, if you have 100 people who are purchasers at an organization, listening to your podcast, it doesn't matter that it's only 100, because those are the right 100 people who are listening and trust you when they're making a decision to buy.
Yeah, we hear so much about, this show drove so many downloads and drove so many dollars in ad revenue, and that's typically the watermark that everybody's comparing against. But all the things that Jacob's mentioning, all the things that we've already talked about with live ticket sales, of merchandise. I'm wearing DJ Sky shirt right now. You have email lists, you have banner ads, you have all these other ways that really don't get discussed in what a podcast business is. And the things that Jacob's building with What's Happening Salem, all those little income streams from one website, people are recreating that with their podcast. It is a media asset that you own and create and control, and you're building a community and an audience that businesses and advertisers, they want to tap into that and really connect with your audience.
Yeah, I've really become the voice of Salem. And this is not me saying it, this is what people are telling me. And even though my size, 40,000 followers is a fraction of what some of my friends might have in different industries, but it's consolidated to a specific geographic location. And so if you're trying to reach people in Salem, Oregon, or the surrounding areas, and you want to reach people on Instagram, I'm going to be the best option for you because currently we have the most attention, on that platform, and then with our newsletter as well. So a lot of it is just making sure you're creating content that is curated for a specific audience, because it's going to be a lot easier to monetize if you know who you're speaking to and you know who's listening.
Yeah, I mean, once you build that up, you can sell posts, you can sell sponsorship packages on your website. You have all these other ways that isn't just what's happening Salem, the content, but there's all these other connections that you're building through gaining the trust of that audience, for having them come back, for having them trust you and follow you. You've built a real tangible asset that you can responsibly monetize. You don't just want to exploit it and just sell to the highest bidder, but you can definitely curate and cultivate an audience of raving fans.
I think the other side of that is that we all care about our downloads, and it is a signal of growth, but it's not necessarily the most important, or definitely not the only.
Yeah, it's just one, and I think that there's so many other elements, and I think a lot of podcasters just get focused on that download number, but really open your mind, start to think about what can this really be. It could be much more than just recording an MP3 file in your home studio and delivering it to an audience. You can make something so much greater.
100%.
Let's keep speaking of making it greater. I also love stories where traditional media really embraces new media, and this comes to us from Flamborough Today. The CBC is making a big investment in local media in Hamilton, Ontario, with plans to launch a live weekday morning audio show along with a new weekly podcast called This is Hamilton. The live show will feature community interviews, local news, traffic, weather, real-time updates, and it'll be available across radio, apps, and digital platforms. This is a part of a bigger strategy to build stronger connections with communities by telling more local stories. Even at a national level, they're leaning into live, local, and consistent programming. It's not just about publishing episodes anymore. It's about showing up every day, being part of the community, and creating content people rely on. And you can almost imagine why I chose this story for this episode, Jacob.
Yeah. I wonder how their approach is going to be different than like a traditional like TV morning show or radio, because I feel like a lot of times a brand will be like, hey, this used to work on the radio. Let's now turn it into a podcast. And I feel like that never works for anybody. I feel like you do have to really think about, okay, what type of content are people engaging with now? How are they engaging? And figure out a new way to tell the similar stories. I feel like sometimes people try to take the same vehicle and put it on a different track, and it doesn't work. You have to have the vehicle that's going to work. You can't put a train on a freeway; it's not going to run, right? You gotta. What's the car that's going to work on that? And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes together. I do love just any new approach to local news and somebody that wants to innovate and share it. It's just so much is just the talent behind it. Like you have to have the right person that's going to be the personality that's going to carry this forward, or it's going to fall flat. It's going to be a lot of production and nobody's going to watch it.
Yeah, while it is a distribution channel, that doesn't mean it's the right channel for the media. If you've been doing it for live television or live radio for all these years, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find an audience right away. You've got to learn how to mold that and craft it so that it is relevant to a podcast audience. You want to make it so that people want to tune in and see it anytime, not just, I missed the live show, I guess I can catch it on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're right, like the right train on the wrong tracks. That could be something that happens in this situation, but it looks like they do have some investment into it. They are very local focused too, which I liked. I thought that was kind of parallel to what you've been building.
Yes.
And just to see, like, where can you take this? How can you build more of these local media companies and see where it goes? CBC is obviously a large entertainment or media conglomerate in Canada.
Yeah.
But to be able to pull this off at a local level, that's a new twist.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see, like, because I feel like all of these companies are eventually, and it's starting to happen already. Like I've noticed in my area, a lot of the local reporters now have their own social media channels. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I'm sure there's direction that's, encouraging people to take this. And so I think right now, like, we're seeing the window closing for somebody to just pick up their phone and become the voice of their community, because you're starting to see people like CBC invest in, a local podcast. You're starting to see a lot of the legacy media companies invest in having their brand more present on social, and individual creators in their brand investing on social. So eventually they'll figure it out. I think there's still a runway where they're going to start it and they're going to be really bad at it because they've never done it before. So there still is the opportunity for people to jump in and become the voice in their community. But this is just a signal. The window is definitely closing.
Yeah, I often wonder when I see the local media personality get on social media, how much of it is they really want to do that and how much of it is their managers either shopping them around for a new job, or they want to get 10% of some of that YouTube AdSense money.
Yeah, they're trying to figure it out, right? They're seeing people are making money on Instagram. The attention is there, and they're starting to realize, like, we need to make this change. It's a matter of survival at this point for us.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Speaking of survival, sci-fi. We're going to some sci-fi authors this comes to us from Fun Cheap San Francisco. And this free event at the San Francisco Public Library on April 26th brings together sci-fi authors Samantha Mills and Justin Feinstein for a live reading, audience Q&A, and book signing. It runs from 3 to 5 p.m., is open to the public, with books available for sale and time built for people to connect after the event. But here's the layer that matters the most for us. The entire conversation is being recorded as a live podcast by Soma FM for later distribution. This is the perfect example of how content is being captured inside experiences that already exist. The event is the draw. The podcast is the extension. And now that moment doesn't just happen once in a room. It lives on and reaches a larger audience after the fact.
I feel like sci-fi fans are the perfect audience for podcasts because they have longer attention spans than most people, right? Like, they're going to dig deep into a topic. They probably want to listen to, like, you remember DVDs used to have the extra cuts where you have like the director's interviews and they would like break down different scenes in the movie. I feel like people don't have the attention span for that type of stuff anymore. Like, nobody wants to watch like the director's cut of a 30-second Instagram reel that went viral. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I feel like the sci-fi audience, they have this built-in attention span where they probably want to dig deeper. And there's probably lots of fun ways for podcasts to explore that sort of.
Love all those little behind-the-scenes stories, or what happened in the making of, or the original version of this, the alien was green, but they made him blue in post-production. Yeah. All those little things they get immersed in, and they really dive in. And you're right, an event like this where you're meeting the author, you're hearing the behind the scenes stories, like, how did that character come about? Mm-hmm. All those things I think really do play well into a sci-fi audience.
I think the big advantage here for a podcaster is a chance to expand your network, where you might see this event that's coming up and they have this, panel of speakers, and there's 3 people on that panel that you want to build relationships with, but you don't already. Like, what a cool opportunity to present this idea to the event organizer where, hey, I want to like do this podcast on the side. It's a good added value for the forum, or the people that are on the panel rather, where they have the chance to also have this content that lives beyond the local event. But you have the chance to kind of spearhead that and be the face of that podcast, and a chance to build some potentially meaningful relationships. Because in that conversation, not only are you getting to know that person, but they're getting to know you, and they can start understanding your value, your experience, and your goals in some capacity. And sometimes there's an opportunity for that person to see, like, hey, this is somebody I kind of actually want to work with more in the future.
Yeah, great way, especially authors and bookstores, a great way to expand your audience, even if you're not familiar with that author, but you visit that bookstore a lot, you maybe grab a coffee, you pick up new releases, and then you hear they're having an event. Just being a lover of books, a lover of stories, that could draw you into this recording and that podcast, and just really open your mind, give you a new perspective, a new form of entertainment.
Yep.
Speaking of entertainment, we're going to go to a podcast where the tickets are $1,795. This is a conference, a law conference. It's called HumanX 2026 in San Francisco. Is a high-level AI conference with tickets priced at over $2,000, bringing together more than 6,500 leaders, founders, and investors. And right in the middle of the event, there's a live podcast being recorded on the floor featuring Toberlife AI CEO David Schulhoff. It's a quick 10-minute conversation capturing insights in real time while the event is happening. But here's the angle for podcasters. If a ticket like this feels out of reach, this is your way in. Events like this need content, they need distribution, they need ways to extend their reach beyond the room. Your podcast can be that vehicle. You can show up as media, offer to record sessions, interview speakers, or create recap content for the organizers. Instead of paying to attend, you position yourself as part of the experience, and that's the shift. Your podcast isn't just content, it's access. And that's, most podcasters will scoff at a $1,700 ticket. But I want to show podcasters that what you're building has value. And you will see that events like this, maybe not $1,700, but there are plenty of $600, $700, $800 conferences that would love to have more things happening at it. Would love to share your resources, your assets, your love for creating media. And that really shows you that your podcast and what you're creating has value. And I think a lot of podcasters just kind of record and distribute and then do it again and don't really think much of it. But when you start to position yourself in areas where the thing is already happening that you're already talking about, you can really fit in there. And you'll really see how much value you're creating if they offer you a free ticket. Here's a comp ticket. Come on down, record. Like, oh my goodness, what I'm creating has a $600 value. That's pretty incredible.
And I think sometimes it's easy to forget when this thing that you're creating, you're also developing all of these skills that are extremely valuable. So you might be looking at your podcast download numbers and, man, I've been doing this for a year and like I'm only here. Like, why am I not bigger? And sometimes you can fall into that comparison trap, but you're forgetting all the relationships that you formed. You're forgetting how much better of a podcast host you have become. And sometimes it's just shifting it a little bit and thinking, okay, what are other ways I can use these skills? And this is a great advantage of that, right? Becoming the go-to podcast person in a specific industry where this industry knows like, hey, we got this event coming up. This person set up the podcast last time. They did a great job. The guests loved it. The sponsors loved it. Let's bring them back. And now maybe the first time around it's a free ticket, but next time, okay, now I'm going to charge for it because they've seen the value I bring. They understand I'm going to deliver. I'm somebody that's talented, but also reliable. And now you can start monetizing it in that way, in addition to getting the free access. But I think sometimes free access is a great first step that a lot of creators overlook because they do want to be paid, and we all should, right? If we're creating valuable things, like we should be able to monetize that. But sometimes doing that free work or work in exchange for a trade is a great way for us to demonstrate our value to a new audience and build new and meaningful relationships.
Exactly. And that's what I loved about that. And that angle of, here's something I've been creating, I've been working on, hours of my life every week just to put out this show. And then all of a sudden you get validated by being invited to an event or a conference in exchange for a ticket. Like, hey, you come do what you do. We're going to give you a pass. And that instantly shows that what you're building is value. What you're building has value. And I just love that idea for podcasters to have that perspective instead of just like, I got to do this thing for free for everybody forever. But you'll see in different ways, there's so many different ways to monetize. And just that little switch of, oh my goodness, I got a free ticket. I got an invitation to a conference. They want me to be there. That's such an accomplishment that most people, 95% of the people in that conference do not get that invitation.
Absolutely.
Well, Jacob, this goes so fast. We're on our last story already, and it's one that I missed. I'm going to file this under a podcast that I missed, and it's unfortunate because it was free and it had snacks, which are my two favorite things. This comes to us from the Stories We Missed department. Jersey's Best Podcast celebrated its 1-year anniversary with its first ever live show on March 25th at Pet Shop in Jersey City. It was a free event No tickets required, and it featured a full live episode with special guests, interactive segments, trivia, giveaways, merch, drink specials, ice cream, and birthday cake. These types of events are happening everywhere, and this is the level most podcasters can actually operate at. Local venues, small crowds, interactive formats, multiple ways to engage and monetize. This opportunity isn't waiting for permission to press or press coverage. It's already happening. And I think that's the number one takeaway from this show today. What Jacob's building on what's happening Salem, all these 6 events. I mean, the takeaway is local is dominant right now. You can take your show into your community and do something, give back, perform, entertain your local community.
And you can just do things. You have an idea. You don't need to wait for someone's permission. You can just make it happen. We're doing an award show on May 1st, and it's our 3rd award show. And it was an idea. We want to recognize people that are making great things happen. There are a lot of award shows that kind of recognize the legacy people who have been doing things for, 15, 20 years. But we didn't really have anything that was recognizing the people that are just getting started, bringing community together. And so we found a gap and we filled it. We didn't ask anybody. We didn't ask the city permission. We didn't ask any legacy organizations. We just said, hey, we're going to make this happen. What are the pieces that are needed to make an award show happen? And something that I love about their approach for the event and the article is it's a demonstration of how simple it is to bring people together. I mean, all you really need is a location, something to eat, something to drink, and then start inviting people to come. And right now there is such a need. I actually wrote a book called How Parties Will Save the World because I believe that this is true. We need people who are organizing, getting people in a space together and allowing for authentic, meaningful conversations to happen, whether it's a podcast or just a room. I mean, it literally can be that easy. But when you have a platform like a podcast or a social media channel, it just becomes your megaphone where you can amplify that these events are happening, but also recap like, hey, this just happened. Here's was the outcome. We would love to have you at the next one. So media can play a very important role in bringing people together, bringing communities together.
All across, I'm in the Rust Belt in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There is town after town that has old downtown areas. There a lot of them are boarded up. And I really believe that what you're talking about, local events, local podcasts, these types of things can start to fill those vacant businesses again in your small town. You can start a little event center, have a little podcast place, a little way to just bring community together and start being the center of the community. Start being a meetup place. Give a place for people to get out of the house, come on down, talk to their neighbors, and have entertainment. Maybe one night you have folk music, one night you have a podcast, but you're doing something and becoming a pillar in the community. And that's exactly what Jacob's building. And I just love that. And it's the perfect fit for what we're trying to build here with podcasting. And Jacob, thank you so much for being here tonight. This has been a lot of fun and a lot of nuggets you dropped tonight.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing and anything that's supporting the independent creator and creating local media. I'm a fan of. So appreciate you.
Awesome. And this is the part of the show where I turn the whole stage over. I get off the stage. I give you the entire floor to talk about, plug, promote, anything you'd like to talk about. Jacob, the floor is yours.
Well, I'll keep this as short and sweet as possible. But we started the local social club about, 5 months ago. We have 35 content creators who are all building local platforms, monetizing, bringing the community together, becoming the voice of their city. And we'd love to have you in it. JacobEspinoza.com. You can book a call to learn more. It's the local social club. We're on the school platform if you want to find us that way as well. But really appreciate you for having me. I look forward to connecting with a few new faces potentially.
Awesome, Jacob. This has been a blast. I'll put all those links in the show notes. Check him out. Connect with Jacob. If you love what he's building, see how can you do that in your community? It's what he's teaching. Build these small community portals and you'll be the number one person in town, right? That's the way to do it.
That's how we do it.
Do you remember what time it was?
It was time for the news, I think is what it is.
What time is it? What? time is